Good evening. How you all doing?
Good.
Sorry we're a little bit late. We got told one location, so here we are. Lieutenant Ligorio, swing shift out here on Foothill. Still a lot of familiar faces in here from some of the other previous meetings. We have our community policing officer, Steve Conte. He'll go over a couple things after I go over a few things. We have another community policing officer, Officer Minton. And our community prosecutor, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry McLaughlin from the DA's office. I am the community prosecutor currently assigned to East Side San Jose.
All right, welcome. If there's any way you guys could all get more in, that would be helpful.
Short people.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have Officer Nguyen here, who's new to the department, so he's getting his feet wet and coming to the community meeting here. Real quickly, I can talk about a couple things. One thing that is up is commercial burglaries in the area, so I just want to make you guys aware of that. There's been an uptick for some reason in commercial burglaries. We're still trying to figure it out. They seem to be kind of targeting specific items, and I don't want to go too in depth on that, but we're getting a grip on it, and we'll be clamping down on that. Also, there's activity in 33rd and Allen Rock area. We do send our community policing cars that go out once or twice a week to that specific area, and they do get activity in there and issue citations for quality of life issues such as urinating, prostitution, trash, towing vehicles, things of that nature. So just to let you know that we are still putting forth an effort out there on a weekly basis and getting results. Need a microphone. And I will turn over to Officer Ponte. He can give you some community police officer updates for this specific location.
Hi guys, as mentioned, my name is Officer Steve Ponte. With me today on the other side of the week is Officer Mark Minton. He also is kind of the duplicate of what I do. I'm off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, but for special meetings I come in just to hang out with you guys and kind of speak to you. Officer Minton, oh, a little bit louder? Okay. Officer Minton basically does the same job on the other side of the week, and as you can tell, he's training our new officer here. So Officer Nguyen's going to continue the meeting right now and just take over for all of us, and he can do all the work now, right? Yeah. No, just kidding. Thank you. But so some updates from a community officer perspective. Some of the things that we've been noticing, obviously, is an increase in issues surrounding homelessness, drinking in public urination, encampments. And that being said, we have deployed community policing officers as well as patrol, as well as the overtime cars to go and kind of hash out the problems. One of our strongest allies in the community is you guys. As residents, if you report it to us, and if you take the extra steps just to kind of help us manage it. I'm going to point out a gentleman right there, Jesse Haro. Jesse has been above and beyond in terms of helping us, not only organizing businesses, but organizing neighbors as well. So it's a real pleasure to have somebody in the community who steps up to that way to help guide us through sometimes talking to a bunch of businesses, talking to a bunch of residences, to help kind of solve the problems that we all see and feel every day. Surprisingly, you probably think that homelessness and quality of life issues are probably at the forefront, the biggest issue in the city. Unfortunately, some of the things that have happened lately, the lieutenant touched on that, up in burglaries, simple assaults, felonious assaults also up, but it's something that the media doesn't cover as much, and it's not something that you see every day on the sidewalk or a corner intersection or something of that nature, right? That being said, as a community policing officer, my goal is to help you guys. And the captain has authorized me to come to these meetings to figure out what are your problems and what are your issues. And with that, work in partnership with you guys to have at least a plan for three top things that as an officer, myself, and on the other way, Officer Minton can handle and fix for you guys. You have to keep in mind, usually it's on an overtime basis. Usually it's just myself or maybe one officer, and we go and handle the issues that come up. So if you know that there's a hot spot, for example, Jesse has identified the area just over here on Allen Rock Village, and you do a quick stop into the rear of that. We do visits there, and we talk to people, and the business is now working in cooperation with us to put up signage that limits trespassing, to put up fencing, to beautify and paint the area so that without a doubt it's clear that anybody consuming alcohol in public there is going to get a citation. Anybody who's been told that they're on the SOP program and can no longer stand around doing nothing loitering will be cited and moved along. So that helps a bunch, and I recommend that as a group, you go and pick your neighbors' brains, the ones who have been successful, ask them for resources and see if you can duplicate your efforts in doing what they did, because their plan is very successful. Going back to what we're talking about in regards to 3 items. In your community where you guys live, and I live here too, I'm a resident of East San Jose. I see it every day coming back and forth. Think about the 3 things that you see the most in terms of being issues in your community. And with those 3 things, make sure that it's identifiable that Officer Aponte or Officer Minton can help take care for you guys, right? Whether that means going to an area that you know is a problem area. Whether it means going and towing cars where you know there's an overabundance of abandoned vehicles that are on blocks or have been sitting there for 2 years with no activity and they're covered in spider webs. If it's an issue of a park where people go and congregate and maybe drink and scare away the kids, especially in the summer months, kids have to have the parks. It's not a place for adults to congregate and drink alcohol or gamble, right? If those things are happening, come together as a group and come with a plan, 3 top issues, and at the next meeting, we can get together and we can hash it out. And I will offer you those services as a community policing officer to help address those things on a monthly basis. You guys understand? And I know it sounds like a big idea and a big thing, but I apply the same model, what I call a micro community policing plan, to every single group that I go to. That being said, I already work with 6 groups in East San Jose. And with those 6 groups, we all have different plans and different goals. So identify within yourselves and talk amongst yourselves as to what you want to accomplish, not only now throughout the end of summertime, but coming into the winter time as well. And we'll talk it out next time, okay? Yes, question?
Just a quick question. So you called yourself a community policing officer.
That's correct.
But the city also has community officers.
Community service officers.
Community service officers.
CSOs, that's correct. And the title community policing officer is kind of like a secondary role.
Yeah.
My primary role is a patrol officer.
Right.
I work 61 Mary 3, which is King, Allen Rock, McKee. I work that Thursday through Sunday on swings from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. So that's my primary job. I'm a patrol officer first. Community policing is secondary to my
So what is
assignment.
community policing then?
Well, that's kind of a big question, but if you're looking for the grand scale of things, I would recommend you go look into President Obama's study on 21st century policing. But as it applies to the city of San Jose and this department, it's this: coming and meeting with folks in the community, identifying their needs, their issues, and helping on an overtime basis to address those issues. Because sometimes with the short staffing that we have in patrol, call volume on patrol for more high-end calls, we don't, as patrol officers, always succeed. I'm guilty of it too, of dealing with the smaller quality of life issues. My caveat to everybody in the group, as well as I've told Jesse, is that if you feel like you're not getting the services required by your police department, yeah, the squeaky wheel does get the oil. But also leverage the resources that you have through your leadership, through the models that everybody else has been doing, and I can come and help you guys, okay? Jesse, and then you right there. Yes.
So to help with that, I'm going to try to give you a visual. We have our issues in the village, and we continue to have them. But the meeting with what the captain did is assigning Officer Ponte and Officer Minton to meet with us and collaborate together. But on our side, we have to be as specific as we can with what the issues are. We can't just have, we have to be detailed, and we have to come to the table to what we think might work as well, right? And so the more detailed we are, the more concerned and the more collaborative we are, and then teaming up with the police officers, we can strategize on what we think could work, and then put that into action and tweak it, right? Because it's not gonna be 100%, and it's gonna be a continuous collaboration. And so we've seen improvements. The store owners have seen improvements. Are we there? No, we're not there. But we're in the right direction.
And we started meeting with Jesse about 2 months ago, Jesse, beginning of summer.
Beginning of summer.
And so within that 2-month period, you can see statistically, at least on our end, the changes that we've seen through there. And so again, it's a collaborative effort that takes time, but it has to be a consensus as you residents come together to come at the end. I'll get you right after she was first here. Go ahead.
Can you briefly reiterate exactly how we're supposed to get these concerns? So you were supposed to get together in a group?
This is it right here.
So this
You guys are meeting today. I'm leaving a whole bunch of business cards on the table right here. In the meantime, discuss amongst yourselves what are the top issues that you see being problematic in your area, specifically where you live, you work, you play. And then next month, at the next meeting or the following meeting, or it can even be the following meeting after that, we get together again and you present your solidified goal of, hey, right now the 3 hot button issues that we have are this, this, and this, and this. And then I work with the lieutenant and the captain and we kind of collaborate to see how we can affect change in those specific areas. Whether it means going and making more pedestrian stops in front of the liquor store for people who look like they're underage drinkers, or open alcohol containers and issuing citation, or towing vehicles. If you ask me to start citing people for driving too fast in your neighborhoods, keep in mind, everybody gets a ticket. So if you speed in your own neighborhood, you might get a ticket if you're asking for that, right? I'll be with you right here.
So, I'm sorry, but if things are not something that need collaboration, like for example, I live in San Antonio and the speed there is outrageous,
Sure.
as it is on King. And there's not really a lot we can do to collaborate on what to do about speeding, other than asking, can more tickets be given? And if that applies to me too, that's fine, but.
That's what I
I'm
mean.
not going
If
to,
it's a
you know,
consensus on everybody's part, that's what I mean by collaboration.
And kind of piggybacking off of that, because I'm the DA counterpart to the community policing officers, when you guys have an issue with regards to speeding, that's when you let me know those specific areas. In order to get something done specifically related to speeding, and Officer Aponte can speak to this as well, we will then go to the city, specifically city council, and ask them and say, you know, the neighborhood is concerned, they've got issues with speeding in and around these areas. We would like you guys to do a traffic survey in and around the area, find ways that we can collaborate. We had this issue off of Lanai. Recently, they put in speed bumps in Lanai that they're testing out currently right now to slow traffic down. And that was because one of their concerns in and around the area, in the neighborhoods of Tropicana, Lanai, was speeding down the line to get onto Tully, to get onto the freeway. And so we kept addressing that issue with so it would be the vice mayor that we would address it with, and then they subsequently did a road survey in conjunction with transportation, and then made that happen. I'm not saying that that will per se happen, because obviously there's a lot that goes into that, but they'll do the road surveys for it, because obviously the full neighborhood has to agree on it, but it is something that we can tackle in conjunction if you tell me that that's a big issue that needs addressing.
And you can be the first contact.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sir?
Okay, I think I forgot my question, but anyway. You said you're a community officer, secondary?
Community policing officer is my alternate role. Yeah, it's kind of a collateral duty that I get.
Do you report illegal dumping, like to the code enforcement? One time I was with the city.
I don't do it through code enforcement, but I do it through the San Jose app, which goes to code enforcement.
Okay, so when you see, because I was working for the city, 4 years ago, whatever, and I started working for the mayor's gang force task cleanup.
Yep.
And they said, well, the responsibility where we get to complaints would be the San Jose PD, because you're out there, you see it. And they alleviated that program. It's a great program, because once you see it, we go out in trucks, pick up all the stuff, find the hot spots. Our hot spot, you know, the street right behind us where the gas station's at.
Yep.
Dumping every time you go down there. So they're probably dumping right now as we speak.
Florence
But anyway,
behind Orchard Supply, I know. Yeah.
But anyways, that job was alleviated. And then once again, I was with the NCU program. We had the resources to do all the cleanup. Once again, that's completely gone. They're doing it in a sparse way now. I think city council will pick a few spots, but it's been very.
Well, I can't speak to the problems of the past, but I can tell you what the
Well,
current standard policy that we do as community policing officers, and in general patrol officers as a whole. We like it when we have access to an app on our phone that as I'm wrapping up a call and I see a junk pile, I'm going to snap a picture of it and report it very quickly. Not only do I do that, but on her end as well. She'll drive the district and take pictures.
That's great.
And that's from our end. Now imagine if the 5 of us do that times 30. If all of you are taking a stroll or driving or taking the kids out or what have you, going for ice cream because it's hot today. If you snap a picture and you send it, that much quicker can we take care of that problem. Do you understand? That's why I asked for collaboration.
That's part of the code enforcement duty. When I went out with my bosses, I said, look at all this stuff. Why don't we pick that up? We already got our program. We don't have to. Why don't you go nail these people over here for doing what they're doing? And they wouldn't do it. And these were my bosses, and they're still working there.
Well,
so they needed to go out there and be a little more attentive.
I can tell you that they have been, and I know this because I patrol through the area. I do what I call my rounds through the area. I probably snapped between July 5th and July 7th, 25 separate photos. They were all completed and wrapped up by July 12th.
And who picked it up? Which department?
It was Bernie who was here talking to you guys, Anti-Graffiti. They were amazing. I snapped one photo by Foxdale Apartments, and that thing was cleared in 15 minutes. And then all of the
DOT did some of it.
DOT did some of it. The city did some of it because there were a bunch of shopping carts all up and down King. Those were gone.
Well, you have one officer that does that.
You know, guys,
It's not an
That
officer.
officer
real quick,
right there.
just in respect of everybody's time, we're gonna move on, and if you'd like to connect afterwards, we'd be happy to talk to
But
you.
yeah, that app does it.
Alex, you had something? Or Jesse?
Yeah, just real quick. Things are progressing, and I think it's because your peak period is probably the same peak period that we have problems. I'm sure we're aligned with your peak period on bigger items is the same peak period that we had on the non-emergency. Because I think what's happening with the events that take place are, it's almost like when you say your car sounds like this, right? You take it in and then you can't hear it. And so there's a delay between when something's happening, the exchanging of drugs in front of the village, which we are witnessing firsthand, and when somebody responds, there's too much of a gap. And so I guess my question is, how do we close that gap so that we can make sure that we catch it when it's happening? Because the peak period is weekend, late afternoon through the night, right?
So,
Is there a new recruitment?
talking about recruitment for the department?
Yeah, maybe that's going to close the gap.
So
because
the
that's
problem we do
problem.
run into is, we're on swing shift. This is the busiest shift, right, from 3 until midnight. So if you're calling and reporting things, whether it's through us or through 311 or 911, you're competing for calls, for the violent calls that are going on right now. And when we talk about collaboration, you're saying, how do we collaborate? Well, we talk about problems. Then I, as a lieutenant with the captain, we talk about how we can reallocate resources. And those resources are special operations. Those are the traffic unit, and there's only like 8 of them that ride motorcycles. Back when I did it 10 years ago, there was 35 to 40 of them. So it's limited resources. As the numbers come up, then we can now put those resources out there during the hot times, at the hot spots, right people at the right place, the right time. Our staffing is about 1,000, it's just under 1,000. We still have multiple academies running. We had 3 going, we're going to shrink it to just 2 a year, because as far as teaching people, having instructors, it's a little tight to fill 3 academies full of instructors. So we're going to only have 2, but we're going to have bigger academies. That's kind of the goal. So classes are still coming. We have, in August, there's going to be, I think, 45-ish, 45 hitting the streets. At the same time, there's going to be some getting released from the program. So they're going to backfill, and we were actually talking about making more units, and some of them deal directly with what we're talking about, these quality of life issues. Almost like we're rebuilding a team that went many, many years ago. They can deal with specifically homeless stuff, quality of life stuff, in these little specific pockets and handle it. So staffing is going up, recruiting is continuing, and just allocation and working together in collaboration, we bring in the resources at the right times. But you have to understand something. This is one community meeting we're at. And just for Foothill alone, there's another 6 of them or 7 of them. They all want the resources. So we have to triage this and take our resources and put us in the hottest spot, the one that needs the most attention, the worst problem we're seeing, and have them deal with it. And then move on to the next one. And unfortunately, if the problem moves because we didn't get there in time, we'll just have to chase it.
No, I get it. I totally get it. It gets a little frustrating because when they're acting, what they're doing with such great confidence, right? Because they know that no action will be taken for a few hours. And I was just wondering, maybe even if you think outside the box, I know the sheriff's response time is super fast. Is there like teamwork in the meantime?
It kind of comes down to jurisdictional boundaries, because we kind of ran into that up on Sierra Road because they had a lot of people hanging out up there and they were nervous about 4th of July. So we kind of took a team effort on that a little bit. But again, that's right at the jurisdictional boundary. And if you're in the city of San Jose and you call 911, it's going to come to our dispatch. And we're not going to asked for, that kind of be like a mutual aid thing, but that's like a serious emergency. Just pushing it off to the sheriff's office, they're not going to do that because we're not going to go handle stuff in their area, right? We do talk and we know about crime trends in certain areas, but their jurisdiction is their responsibility and ours is ours.
No, I get it, but when I see, let's say I'm a sheriff deputy and I drive and I see the 5 guys peeing up against the Quick Stop building, do I just keep driving and go, oh, that's
They have every right to do what we call self-initiated activity, and if they want to stop those guys, because they can work anywhere in the county, they can
Okay,
stop
well, that's
and
good.
they can cite them and do what they want to do. If they do or they don't, I don't know. I don't know what the directive is from their command staff.
Okay.
I was just going to echo it's great to use the city's app, and I realize now that maybe some people in this room have never tried it, right? And so maybe like 3 years ago you would call something in and nothing would happen. But it's different now, and so if you've never tried the app, try it. Just find graffiti, take the pic, report it, and then you'll see that it works. So just echoing, try using the app. Things are different now, and
So
you get
the app-
results.
The app is called My San Jose. My San Jose, and we used it on Carl Road like a couple weeks ago because there was a bunch of RVs out there. There's probably like 20 of them, and one day we gave them all the orange tags, 3 days move. We went out there 3 or 4 days later. A lot of them have moved, and they left trash behind. So we actually towed a couple that we could, but we used San Jose app. Like we were talking about My San Jose, because you get results. And to be honest, it doesn't matter to me who comes out and picks it up.
Really?
If I do the app and they
Agree.
come pick it up and it's gone,
I'll pick it up
that's
myself
great.
if I have to,
Yeah.
you know?
But if you take a picture, location, it's usually gone the next day.
And they will send you a receipt back, especially on the graffiti, where it'll show you that they've cleaned it up and sprayed it off before they close it out, so that you can see that it was actually done as well.
So, I don't know, how did that go from Jesse saying there were people on the street selling drugs to use San Jose app? I don't understand how that happened at all.
I think
But-
Alex brought it up.
Okay, Alex, thank you, but that doesn't associate to what Jesse's saying at all. And we're seeing this. I mean, we have these James Lick students painting these great murals, and these people are literally selling drugs right in front of us. And, I mean, a chain link fence was put in on either side of the alley, which the neighborhood is applauding whoever had the foresight to have that done. They've cut into the gate, so now the alley's open again. And it's just, there's just and then the liquor store, people are selling, young people from the high school are able to buy liquor from anybody, all these people standing around, you know? How is that supposed to be fixed? And so, kind of, sorry Alex, don't mean to bag on you,
So-
but it just did not make sense jumping.
So a
topics.
couple of things that I can say specifically. If you're seeing this and law enforcement is not around in the area, please pull out the iPhone, the Samsung, tape it. And then you can send that to us and we can try to identify down who those people are as well, because obviously it takes a group effort. These guys, I will tell you, because I'm working with them and their captain and their lieutenants, we are covering so much ground right
And
now.
thank you. I know you guys are working hard. I don't mean to bag
Yeah.
on you. That's not what I mean.
No, and I know that. But just to let you know, there's like 3 trends that we're really focusing on right now. Obviously, the high schools are coming back in. If you've seen the gang graffiti going up around, that is a big concern of ours right now, because obviously we're going to have a convergence at the high schools here with all different groups of students. So we're kind of trending our focus to those issues. However, I am aware, my office is aware, because we just ran the stats, that narcotics is a big deal. But I want to caveat a couple things, because I think the public doesn't know certain propositions that were recently passed that have decriminalized certain acts to the extent of what law enforcement, they and us in court can do. I had a discussion with my office about that, because obviously misdemeanor possession now is a misdemeanor. So when a person possesses or they're 11-550, what we used to do in the past is we would be able to file that, especially if they were chronically doing that as a felony, and force rehab as an issue. We cannot do that anymore. So mainly rehab is still an option. It's not an exercised one very much, because a lot of people who are users and addicts continue to have that habit and would rather take the jail time, the 10, 15 days that they get, which they get at halftime, come back out and use again. So it's a perpetual cycle that was an advent of Prop 47, and the voters specifically voted that in. So if it's a sales issue, however, we're asking collectively, we have a narcotics unit, an enforcement unit in the office, but we also need the public's help. A lot of people will walk past it and they will see it, but they won't do anything about it, they won't video it. People are afraid to call it in, afraid to report it. If it goes unreported, I can tell you, these guys in my office, there's absolutely nothing that we can do. However, in light of changes also that were just made under Prop 57 and the like, and some of the legislative decisions that were made here recently, we also have our sellers who were our prolific sellers, who were caught 3, 4, 5 times, used to have sales priors, where you could tack on more time and we would get our prolific sellers off the street and obviously into our jail system for a specific time to knock down the behavior. The legislature just recently passed a law eliminating priors for narcotics crimes. So if you eliminate the priors for narcotics crimes, the best you have is your standard sentencing. And so this is why we're starting to see the revolving door of people that are coming in and out of the system, because we don't have the hammers that we used to have on a prosecution perspective. So I am telling community members, just as active as these guys are, and trust me, there are times where I drive them crazy, where I'm hearing stuff, homes, people tell me at these neighborhood meetings, I'm seeing multiple people coming in and out of these homes at all hours of the day or night. It looks like something's going on there. I will sit down, like tomorrow I'm sitting down with the captain, and we usually hash out, what are the addresses that you're hearing, what, you know, where can we put additional enforcement, what can we do to address things. If we do not hear from the community, for example, there is a neighborhood who was telling me recently, we're getting our cars broken into, we're getting, we're getting vandalized everywhere. We ran the numbers, the calls to San Jose PD, to see what that looked like. There were 0 calls for service. Not a single person in that neighborhood called it in. They told us about it later on, but they didn't call it in. So when we're saying that you guys need to be proactive and call, get out that phone, tape it, send it, because then we can send it back out to, patrol. Can you identify these people? We now have it on videotape. I love videotape personally in my office. It helps us solve crimes faster. And so I've been asking our neighborhoods to take a proactive approach to this, because sometimes you would be surprised. We'll sit in these neighborhood association meetings and people will say, we're having an issue with this, this, and this. And Captain will run out the numbers to usually get an idea of crime trends in the neighborhood, and there's 0 calls for service because you're seeing it, but you're not saying anything about it. And so we're kind of asking everybody, especially in light of summer, we're going into fall too, to be proactive, because the more proactive you are in the community, the more I know what's going on out here, the more I can marshal resources, services, and figure out what the community needs out here. But I will tell you, you have an unbelievable crew of officers out here. I think Foothill Division, D5, D7, who are in the boundaries, these guys are amazing. And they go above and beyond, and when I call them out on stuff, I'll email and say, hey, can you pass by this park? I'm hearing X, Y, Z. They go out. We've caught defendants out in parks that shouldn't be there because they're doing proactive enforcement based on request alone. So, there's only so many of them and so many of us. Obviously, I'm the only one. But if you guys are proactive and partner with us, like we can accomplish really great things and get some things done. And I will say this, Officer Aponte, the top 3 that he is talking about, I really urge all of you to sit down and think in the neighborhood, what are your top 3 issues? Because I can tell you in the neighborhoods that we've actually done that with, we've been able to narrow what those top 3 issues are, target them, eliminate them, and then we move on to bigger issues or things that we want fixed. But those top 3 issues are usually your big 3 quality of life issues that you need handled out here. And then it makes a huge difference moving forward, especially on proactive policing. We have a neighborhood right now that's seen a massive decrease in crime because they did that top 3. Yes?
I want to be proactive for July 4th, 2019. How many tickets did you write? How many people were arrested involved in fireworks? We don't have to be proactive here because they're happening here. We just, at any corner you can sit and hear, you can go
Yes,
I have COPD, I can't scream
it's
anymore.
okay. You want to know what happened on 4th of July?
Well, that's one of the, make corrective for next one. Is it too scary? Is it too dangerous for you to go out and give tickets to those people that are drunk and shooting?
No, it's not. So I worked 4th of July, and I can tell you it was very, very, very busy. Besides just the fireworks. Not a lot, but I can say we probably gave, I'll say less than 10, and you say, well, that's not a lot. Less than 10, it's not a lot, but we were so busy on other calls.
Like what?
Well, like Alviso, they had a near riot up there, so we were dealing with that. On Capitol and Aloni Road, which is up District William, we had guys lighting off fireworks, they started a fire. We got them. We had another guy that started a fire up on Sierra Road. We had another fire that was off of Clayton and Story. So we were active chasing things around and helping the fire department. And I was up on the hill looking down, looking at all the big mortars go off. There were more people shooting off fireworks than there were cops. Probably like 100 to 1. I mean, it was insane, right? But if I looked all out towards San Jose, Alviso, there were fireworks everywhere. We can write tickets all night long, we probably wouldn't even just took a chip off the block. But we were out there, and I told my officers that night, if you can see something and do something about it, do it. Because typically every year, there are reports that, you know what, the fireworks go off and there are people that lose fingers and lose hands. I can tell you that this 4th of July, there was none of those reports. I didn't hear about it. In the city of San Jose, nobody lost fingers or hands. So for me, that was a victory. At least we did something in some of the neighborhoods where we stopped some of it occurring. Kids didn't get hurt. They're not living the rest of their life with, with fingers missing. So do we write enough citations? Probably not. But we're not capable of writing enough citations because it's so busy. There's violence. Was there no harm to people? Yes, so I call that a victory.
Sheriff, I know the city and the county are not like this, but this would be a good night for all of them to get together and get out there.
And we did, up on the hill. The sheriff's office was up on Sierra. They had a couple guys posted. We had some cars, extra cars in the area doing that stuff. But overall, there was no extra enforcement specifically for fireworks this last holiday season. So what I'm going to push you to do, what you heard from the guys previous to us, is talk to your council members, push it up the chain, tell them that you want funds. What you need is funds released so we can have overtime cars out there doing enforcement specifically for fireworks. Because it's a huge cost for us to just go out and do that.
I think,
Sheriff's out there.
Could we, hold on everybody,
Yeah,
if,
you bring your sheriff.
hold on, if we could, just out of respect for everybody attending, could we now start going to new people, and then once everybody's asked their questions, we'll go ahead and cycle back to people who have already posed questions or concerns.
And quickly, I'd like to invite you back for our September meeting because we will have the fireworks statistics addressed at the September meeting, so please come back.
I think it's important that you work with your neighborhood because, like you said, we're a community. And so if you have issues with 4th of July activity, at least take care of your neighborhood. Work with your neighbors.
I'm going to stand up because I want everybody to hear this. I was going down Lundy the other day. It's been about 3 weeks now. And pulled over to the 3rd lane to turn left. And my car stopped. Okay. I got the cell phone that I don't always carry. And I called 911 because it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and the police dispatcher was fantastic. He got where I was and I sat there for about 5 minutes and a white car comes up behind me. And it's the CSO, Community Service Officer. She was a little lady, thin, black with her hair in braids, and you'll know who she is. And she came and she looked at me and she says, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Well, I pulled over and the car stopped." So she said, "Well, I'll be right back." She goes to her car and I don't know what she did there. She put lights on or something. But what she did is she came back and she says, "I'm going to push you." And she rocked my car a little bit, told me to put on the brake, put on the brake. She said, "Turn the wheel," and I turned the wheel, and we did this. I don't know how many times, 5, 10, 15 times. And she got me across to Lundy and Murphy, their hospital. And she got me into the turn lane by this. In the meantime, as we get there, if you want to believe this, tow truck shows up. So she must have called the tow truck which was behind me. And I got home the tow truck driver took me over to the auto store to look at it. And it was, the fuel pump died. And they say it just dies, that happens. So it had nothing to do with carelessness or anything else, but that dispatcher and that CSO were fantastic. And I really need you to know how good they are. Because they're fantastic.
Thank you for the compliment, I appreciate it. Sir?
Can I go back to the comments, that you were talking about?
Yes, absolutely.
You were talking about taking videos and, the public should be more aggressive in doing that. What about their safety? What about the person that's taking this video?
So,
That wasn't addressed, and we have 4 police officers, and none of them spoke up and said, hey, you need to be careful as well, because those people are selling drugs.
so okay, let me clarify a couple
Yeah,
things.
you didn't.
I do not recommend that you walk up to these people and engage them. But if you're standing in a business that's like 7 to 10 feet away and you can clearly see this, or you're across the street from this and you see this happening, I would pull out that video and I would take it. And then send it to us. I am against, and let me make myself 100% clear, because I just had a citizen decide to interrupt a gang fight. Not a good idea, okay? So that I am not saying. If you can do it safely and if you can do it lawfully across the way where it's not, you're not directly engaged in that confrontation, I fully would ask if we could be proactive in that way. Same thing if you've got cameras on your businesses and you're monitoring that stuff and you can see it happen with the cameras on your business. They have an app with the San Jose Police Department where you can upload those cameras so that we have access to that footage and then we can do the background work. But yes, please do not take what I'm saying as go up and engage. I would not recommend that for safety.
Another option is you can be what's called a citizen informant. And you can be anonymous if you wish to be, and we'll protect your name as much as we can. There is an extreme circumstance where the judge is going to want to know who you are, and that just goes on in closed chambers, so they just really want to verify that you're a real person and that I didn't make it up myself. So if you want to send us or get us information, say you don't want to videotape it, but you got photographic memory, you can tell me the guy, his race, height, weight, what he's wearing, what he typically wears. Maybe he's stashing his dope somewhere around the corner or hides it in his car or in a trash can. Get us all that very specific information, which is what we need, and we can run with that. And then ask, hey, I want to be anonymous. We need to know who you are, because if push comes to shove, the judge wants to know that we're not making it up. So that's also a way you protect yourself, and just tell us up front, I want to be anonymous, but here's the specific information that I have.
Yeah, that's a clarification that people need to hear, because all too often people will just go ahead, take their video and
not send it.
Put themselves in harm's way, where they're better to do it, as you say, a little bit, step back a little bit, and
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely.
It's okay, so we have our car insurance and we got our, the DMV. It's okay to make copies of those and put them in the car instead of put the real one.
Right.
Yeah, they
Because on my car, our truck did get robbed. And one thing they did check that, but I did notice they did run through all the receipts of gas. They're looking for a number right now. And that's why I know it's not a kid, because they're doing it professionally. So I knew it was an adult. And the way they did it, and then they just put it there, they didn't want either one of that.
So a police officer pulling a car over is going to want to see the originals. If you're a police officer that pulls your car over, or if you're involved in an accident, we want to see the originals.
what if they took that?
Well, if you want, every year when you receive it, you can photocopy it, keep a photocopy in your safe or wherever in your filing cabinet. Keep the originals in the car, and if they happen to get stolen within that year, then you can request a copy from your insurance company or DMV. In the meantime, put the
Yeah,
copies
the
in
insurance
your car.
gives us 2 copies.
Right.
But the other one would be hard to get a real one.
And you can print it up online for $2. You can actually go online,
real
DMV.
one?
Yes, the registration.
Also, we had a group that recently said the way that they have been doing it because of the Carbergs is they have been pulling that out at night so that it's only in the vehicle when you travel, and then they put it in their purse when they go into work or somewhere else so that it's not in the car at any point in time, and then that way if the car gets burned overnight, no one has that information.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with guys, I mean, it's males, because they roll it all in their wallet and can get jammed. I'm not right. I never noticed that. I can see with women, but.
Yeah.
If you look up the license plate, aren't you connected to the DMV and you can see that it's registered and it's current?
Yes, but let's say you get in an accident, you're supposed to exchange information, the other driver might want to see it and
That's
read it.
insurance information, I get that, but registration, you would know whether it's.
Yes and no, because I just registered a vehicle and it was getting hung up in the DMV. And I had to go to the DMV and get them, kind of kick them in the butt and say, can you make this happen? Because I did something online, did it
That
with
would
the
be if you had
DMV.
a problem, but let's say I didn't have my registration, but I know I'm
True, we can
current.
look it up every time, but California Vehicle Code says you're supposed to have it in your car and you're supposed to present it when an officer pulls you over.
But then you have the risk is if somebody breaks into your car, they can
Yes,
say.
but then you can hide it, you can get a lockbox if you want. Can I get 2 people in the back we haven't heard of, sir?
I want everybody to be aware that when they call about some kind of what they feel is a penny thing, and is a higher priority, that dispatch puts that up on the board, I was told. And if this thing's clustered up there, because a lot of people call, or you call every week, these guys, when they don't have a higher priority, will go out to that particular location. The dispatch has to be aware of it. We have to let them know. And when we let them know, and you see nothing done, there's something being done, even though they're not here at that time. It could be a week. If there's always junk being thrown at a certain intersection, certain place, dispatch is aware of this and will let these guys know when they are freed up, not doing crazy stuff, break-ins and weird stuff and car accidents. So do call in, just like you were told, all the time, and when you think nothing's happening, no, dispatch keeps a record of this all over the board, I was told, and it's there. It's good. When these guys have the opportunity, they go to that location. So do call. It's all responsibility. We are like the police department way down here. They take care of this stuff.
So let me touch on it real quick, is every call is tracked. The police department has spent millions and millions of dollars on tracking the calls, and we can look up the history of the calls, and we can identify the hot spots, so it's very important for you to call them in. We also have some predictive analytics software that's coming online. So all this data, we're talking about all these phone calls, it's data coming in, and people reporting things occurring. It's going to help us to predict, you know what, it's going to tell us one thing, hey, there's something going on here because there's a bunch of calls. Whether or not we get to them, it shows us there's a bunch of calls at an intersection. It also uses that data with other data to predict, you know what, where's the next call going to be? What time is it going to happen? What may be that crime? Whether it's a burglary, people getting, maybe selling narcotics, a robbery. So keep the calls coming in. It goes into a real smart computer system, whether you want to call it artificial intelligence, predictive analytics. It's helping us do our job. Yeah?
Are you getting any calls about cars doing things in the street?
Street racing?
Yes.
All the time. 4th of July was insane. Donuts. Not the kind you eat, the kind with the car, but yeah. 4th of July was off, I'll say it's off the hook if I can speak in layman terms. It's crazy. So we do send out details. We call it our racer detail. They go out and they try to tackle them, but again, we're talking about resources, right? Those are officers that are working overtime. They hit the hot spots. Believe it or not, all those people that do the racing cars, we call them the racers, whether they're sports bikes or cars, they're on social media. So we watch social media, and if they say, hey, there's going to be a meetup tonight, we try to organize ourselves and go out there and meet them and dissuade them from doing those activities. But On 4th of July, there's probably a pack of about 400 cars driving around. I think we got about 6 of them.
Yeah, and I will say that our office has been made aware of that. San Jose PD has asked us to look into what an enforcement and a prosecution aspect of that would look like. We're in the process of doing that currently, and then once I have general ideas of what my office's position will be on that, I'll let you know.
Yes.
Can I ask 2 quick questions? First of all, there's actually a couple of speeders up and down the street that are the same ones, you know who they are. If we took a picture of their plate and told you, is it possible that there could be some follow-up with that? And then my second question is, I've never heard of a community prosecutor. What is, and I've heard some of the things you said tonight that you do, but what is your role and how long have there been community prosecutors?
So this is, we actually had this in the DA's office about 10 to 15 years ago. There was a set of DAs that came off of rotation from trial assignments who were tasked with pretty much going out in the community, looking at crime statistics, looking at analytics, speaking to the neighbors, figuring out exactly what the crimes are, what we're kind of seeing in and around the neighborhood, marshaling resources to try to abate those, and kind of do a proactive, preventative approach in the community so that we don't see that on our side of the table in the office, and that we're not prosecuting these people. So we try to prevent it up front. Like right now, we're doing a major juvenile push, because obviously juvenile crime is up. Statistically speaking, it's gone up the last 3 years in a row. Part of that is also in light of Prop 57, which stripped us of our ability to direct file cases in the office related to juveniles. So we used to have the ability to file on serious and violent offenses into adult court, on like your carjacking, your robberies, your gang-related violence, your murders. We would have the ability to go ahead and direct file that, so that it went straight to adult court. They skipped the juvenile justice system in its entirety. Prop 57 stripped us of the ability to do that, putting that in the hands of the court system to make that determination as to whether or not a minor should be held up in the adult court. So what we do now, in a lot of my work, I work with both Alum Rock Unified, which is my school district that's been assigned to me this school year, and Eastside Union High School. I have spot focus schools. So my spot focus school this year is going to be Arbuckle Elementary and Overfeld High School. And those are the 2 that we're taking a look at. And we're specifically in there looking at issues related to juvenile crime, how we can bring in preventative measures and teams to kind of do an intervention packet with those that we believe may hit that offender model and kind of try to reduce crime rates in the area. And that's kind of what we do in partnership. And then in conjunction with San Jose PD, sometimes they've asked me to take a look at additional cases, and specifically like marshal cases with people that they're having issues with through the justice system, so that we're monitoring what those cases are. And I will say that like we're seeing crime trends up. I'm super impressed with the neighborhoods out here, because everybody's been super proactive, but they are rising, and we're trying to figure out a way to abate the rise in crime that we're seeing in light of the propositions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Speeding, my business card is right there. Snap away as many photos with details about time, driver, speeds, all that stuff that is very detail oriented.
Do you want video?
If you have a video, email me a video. If you have a picture, if you know where the party leaves from, to and from, send it to me in an email.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.